System Controller. The team is led by David Winger. David.
This on?
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Wenger, and I'm joined by Nick Fryer, Chris Delposen, Brady Ritz, and Dave Wormlinger. And together we make up the Covert Surveillance System Controller team. We are advised by Dr. Walker, Dr. Bright, and Dr. Chrisman, and as well as Dr. Kaiser, our company advisor. And we also received a lot of help from Mr. Gillette.
So throughout the entirety of our project, we worked closely with Dr. Kaiser and Quiet Professional Solutions, or QPS. Dr. Kaiser is the Director of Research Partnerships with Carnegie Mellon, as well as a consultant for QPS. Dr. Kaiser served as both our sponsor as well as our end customer. QPS previously had a working surveillance system, however every component was hardwired, which provided limited flexibility and also consumed a lot of power. The purpose for our project was to create a controller-based system that could fit inside of a barrier and would provide more flexibility by being able to add or remove devices as needed, as well as conserve power by only turning on the devices when they were required. So a little overview of the current system. The users will set up the barrier in a position or in an area that they need surveyed, for instance an oil site or a construction site. And once it's fully set up, there will be motion sensors, both wired and wireless, that will monitor the surrounding areas. So whenever motion is detected, a signal will be sent to the controller that will turn on surveillance cameras and an infrared illuminator. When the cameras are turned on, the footage will be sent to a DVR and will be stored for future viewing. We have also created a mobile application that will allow users to manage the system from a remote location.
As I mentioned before, my name is David Wenger, and first and foremost, I was the team leader. This included figuring out logistics with planning meetings and communicating with our advisors. Along with being the team lead, I also worked on the wireless communication system, which set up a wireless network to connect to the mobile application.
Everyone, my name is Chris Delposen. My main role for this project was to design and develop a wireless proximity sensor that could be placed anywhere within the surrounding region of the system and wirelessly transmit a signal whenever motion was picked up back to the main system.
My name is Nick Fryer. I was in charge of the mobile application development, and I also assisted David Wenger in the early stages of the wireless communication system, since it was so tightly integrated with the mobile application.
My name is Brady Ritz, and I was the embedded code lead. I spent most of my time writing code that controlled the different external parts of our system, and I worked with my team members to integrate their subcomponents with our Arduino controller.
Hi, my name is Dave Wormlinger, and I was the enclosure and hardware lead for the project. That mainly included designing printed circuit boards and mounting them into the enclosure and bringing connectors down to them. As well, I also took I took the minutes at our weekly meetings, and I also tracked our team's budget.
Here we have another visual overview of the project in the form of a block diagram. As you can see in the top left corner, our entire system is powered by a 12-volt battery. This will allow the system to remain on for up to several weeks. The main part of the system that we worked on was the controller system in the middle. Everything in the bottom corner listed under external devices were provided to us by Dr. Kaiser, and we had to design the controller system to control these devices via sending power to them when they were supposed to be turned on. The control system also took several inputs from these devices, such as the proximity sensors, and also through the external devices, such as the wireless application. And those are the lines you can see to the top right.
So at the beginning of the year, we sat down with our advisor, Dr. Kaiser, and just kind of went through a lot of different line items and created a plan and a vision for what we wanted the final product to be. Those requirements changed a lot over the course of the year and went through many iterations, but to give you an idea of the highlights that have been consistent and that have stayed with us throughout the entirety of the project, most importantly, wanted to take the QPS system that already existed and make it better and improve upon it. One of the main ways we did that was giving the user remote access to turn things on and off so that the system isn't always running. That conserves a lot of power and gives the user flexibility as to whether they want things to be on or off without getting away where the system is in the area. Some more lower level requirements for the wireless proximity sensor. We wanted the range on that to be 150 feet, so anywhere within the surrounding radius of 150 feet, we could place a sensor and have it monitor whichever way it was pointing. We also set up a wireless communication system for the controller to communicate with the mobile application, and then the mobile application itself could give the user control over any of the system settings and also view any of the statuses from the sensors or the cameras with like connection or whether motion was detected. Finally, the enclosure for our system, the main requirement there was it had to fit within a small 6x6 by 4 inch box that you see over on the podium.
So by default, we have the system set up so that the cameras are only operated when motion is detected by the proximity sensors. This is also how our IR illuminators run. However, the user is able to change settings on the iPhone application or on the front panel display to operate the camera as an IR illuminator all the time if they desire. So we added the front panel display because we didn't want the system to be unusable by someone that didn't have an iPhone. Using push buttons in the LCD, they are able to change all of the settings that iPhone users are able to.
So as I mentioned earlier, I was in charge of designing the wireless communication system. The first and foremost step in this design was deciding which protocol we wanted to use. We decided to eventually go with Wi-Fi and ruled out the other two options, which were Bluetooth and Zigbee. And the reason for this was Wi-Fi was the easiest to implement in the mobile application on the iPhone, and it was the easiest to set up a covert network. As you can see here by this chart, the Wi-Fi transceiver that we used provided very good response time on the order of milliseconds. So this allowed us to change settings with the app very quickly. You can see here the transceiver that we decided to use. It is called an ESP8266 transceiver. This is fairly small, about the size of a quarter, which helps us to conserve package size. There's also some microcontroller code that goes with this that is written on the Arduino. And this code sets up a hidden network through this wireless transceiver. We also added the capability of having an external antenna, which provides flexibility in case a metal enclosure is needed.
As David just mentioned, maintaining a hidden network is very important for this project. The very first time the app is ever opened on a user's device, they will be asked to write in the network's name and the password, which will be given to them. Once they save that, they'll be given instructions on how to actually connect to the network, because with a hidden network, it doesn't just show up on your phone like a normal Wi-Fi network does. You have to go and manually type it in yourself. So once you connect to the network, you're presented with a list of all the settings and statuses that you can manage for the system. And here you can see what all of the pages on the app will look like if you click on the corresponding row in the previous list. Some of the features that we added to this system is being able to put it into a sleep mode, which basically turns off every external device until you wake it from the sleep mode. We can monitor the battery life of the system. We can check the connectivity of every sensor in the system, which is checked every 5 seconds to see if it's either connected to the system, disconnected, or if it has sensed motion. We can set a timer, which tells the cameras how long to stay on once motion has been detected, because we don't want them constantly running. And then we can manually turn on and off the infrared illuminator. So the way we do this is whenever you want to view a setting or change, the app sends a character to the controller over the Wi-Fi network, and if you're changing the setting, it's followed by the new value, and that just ensures that the controller and the app are always on the same page. All of this heavy work is done on background threads, so the app isn't slowed down whenever you're trying to connect to the controller.
Over here we have the wireless sensor that was developed for this project. This was a fun part of the project and a good lesson in how requirements change over the course of a year. Originally, we were going to build our own sensor from scratch and do everything custom made, but we quickly realized we weren't going to be able to get the performance we wanted to achieve from that kind of approach. So what ended up happening was Dr. Kaiser gave us this Optec sensor, and my project was to design a board to integrate to it and give it wireless capabilities. And the board achieves three main functional requirements. First and most obviously, it takes the high signal from the sensor when motion is detected and transmits that back to the controller to turn things on, like the cameras and IR illuminators if it's at night. Secondly, it has a connection check. So every minute and a half, the board will automatically transmit to the system just to say, I'm still here, things are still connected, and that allows us to enable whether or not the sensor is working properly and whether or not we can be relying on it. And as soon as those connection transmissions stop happening, we know there's something wrong with the sensor. Either it's lost battery or the connection is lost for some reason, and the user can handle that. And finally, there's a low power monitoring system as part of the board. So as soon as the sensor voltage drops below 11.1 volts, that is transmitted as a status back to the sensor and can be sent to the user, so that before the sensor stops working entirely, he can plan to replace the battery or charge it, whatever needs to happen there. So overall, it came together really well, and I think it adds a lot of versatility and robustness to the overall system performance.
We just saw Chris's transceiver board there. In the entire project, we had to create 3 printed circuit boards: the transceiver board, the communication board, and the relay board. How we went about doing this, once functionally we thought we had what we needed on a breadboard, we went ahead through this process. The first picture there on your left is the multi-SIM schematic that we used. The software that we use is multi-SIM, and that's the multi-SIM schematic there. The main function of this board is to bring 12 volts to each device. Once we had the correct schematic there, we went ahead and used Altiboard. Altiboard is a software that was used to lay out the physical board. We then sent in that Gerber file and returned an unpopulated board, and we used our PCB parts that we purchased to populate the board. And that's the third picture you see there, is the final product for our relay board. As far as hardware for the enclosure goes, to mount the PCBs, we used M3 screws and standoffs, and we used barrel connectors to bring 12 volts from the external devices to the relay board, and they have solder terminations on the inside that can be wired down to headers. So I was also in charge of our team's budget. We spent $1,179.22. You're looking at the sensitivity diagram there. We broke our budget into categories. The main category that we spent on was PCB parts. As we were prototyping, we came to about 18% of our total budget. You can work your way down. Enclosure connectors, 16%. So as you can see, PCB parts and enclosure connectors making the final product is where we spend most of our money. And the proto diagram, it's a similar diagram here. Again, PCB parts, it shows you the actual cost spent for each category. PCB parts were around $214.68. You can work your way down and see enclosure connectors, $189.10. And then the line there will show you the additive total of percentage. So we spend about 50% of our total budget on external devices, enclosure connectors, and the PCB parts.
So, in conclusion, we created a controller that could replace Dr. Kaiser's hardwired system. Some of the requirements changed along the way in order to make our project more manageable within our time frame, but the main ones were met. The system can be controlled by an iPhone application and has a hidden network in order to maintain covertness. It can turn on and off subsystems to conserve power, and it also has a front panel display that still allows usability when no iPhone is owned by the user. We would like to thank our advisors, Dr. Bright, Dr. Chrisman, and Dr. Walker, the lab technician, Mr. Gillette, and our sponsor, Dr. Kaiser, for this project. Thank you all for coming.
You mentioned that you pull your sensors every 5 seconds. How did you arrive at that number?
We just figured that if some motion were detected, it'd be nice to know quicker rather than later. So we We didn't think it needed to be pulled every single second because that would just take a lot of effort on the app's part, but every 5 seconds just seemed all right. It worked fine.
What kind of testing did you guys do? What sort of problems did you run into?
So, ideally, we would have been ahead of schedule by a week or two, because we spent a lot of time in the lab this past week. So our system did come together pretty well. We have had some issues. There are many connections inside of this box. If we were to open it up, it would be hard to understand what's going on because it's just a mess of wires. So some of the problems we ran into is we had wires misconnected. We should have done a little bit better of a job with our pin layout and assignments and communicating between one another. But if we had another week to troubleshoot, I believe that we could get a very good working design down. I think that pretty much sums up most of the testing that we did. So it functionally works pretty well, and the wireless application connects up to around 200 feet, and the requirement for that was 150 feet. So along with that testing, it turned out pretty well.
How did you guys arrive at the battery life numbers that you have for this unit?
The amount of
You said it was able to run for a couple weeks on whatever battery you're using.
So-
Were you able to test that somehow, or?
Yeah, so we haven't been able to test that. We just ran some numbers based on the amp hours that the battery would provide, and hopefully in the future the power system will be a little bit more developed, possibly having a solar panel on the entire system so that can last a little bit longer. So we didn't actually have time to test that. It would have been something that would have been nice to test, but we ran the numbers looking at how much current was drawn by the device when it was running for an average amount of time.